Hello and welcome to Kloeker's Education Foundation, where we are providing quality content for amazing teachers and students. If you're joining us from a previous lesson or previous series, welcome back. And if this is your first time, we're glad you're here. This is our World History series, and this lesson is on the fall of the Roman Empire. Before we begin, don't forget to check out the link in the description below for a set of free guided notes to go along with this lesson. So let's dive in. Our essential question for this lesson is what political, economic, military, and social problems led to the fall of the Roman Empire? In order to answer this question, our lesson is divided up into three parts: factors that weakened Rome, Emperor Constantine, and the Germanic invasions. Again, we're trying to achieve the objective that students will be able to analyze the internal and external factors contributing to the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. Pax Romana comes to an end with Marcus Aurelius in 180 AD. Now, this was the era of Roman peace, and the rulers that follow Marcus Aurelius are unable to manage such a large empire and the problems within, and thus the Roman Empire begins to decline. So imagine, if you will, you are playing Jenga. Now at the start of the game, it is stable, it is secure, and it is powerful. And as you play the game and you begin removing blocks, social factors, political factors, economic and military, over the course of centuries, it is too weak and too broken to save. Now, there are four main factors that weaken Rome: the political, social, economic, and military. This is, of course, military interference in politics with civil war, division, the decline in public affairs, the disloyalty, the gap between the rich and the poor, diseases, food shortages, inflation, taxes, the lack of trade, the invasions that are happening, and that is going to end up pushing the Roman Empire over. Now, when we talk about economic problems, trade is being disrupted by the neighboring tribes. They're hostile. Pirates are, of course, attacking the open seas. There's no new sources of gold or silver, and so the government is raising taxes. They're coining more money and trying to fund projects, thus inflating the currency, which has been a real issue the last couple of years since COVID, and this soil is becoming less and less fertile as there has been over farming. Politically, there's many issues. Citizens are losing the patriotism. The Roman citizenship, which was once such a unifying factor, is not having as much weight as it used to. The government is being controlled by the military. We see military generals seizing power all the time. And we have a series of terrible emperors: Nero, Commodus, Caligula, who murder and assault and impoverish the people. Now, we all know that bad emperors and bad leaders can do a lot more damage than a good leader can fix. And so we're going to talk about some of the bad emperors that led Rome. Caligula, who led Rome for about 4 years, did not have much experience leading a nation. He was rumored to have incest with 3 of his sisters. He enjoyed watching people being tortured. He wanted to make a horse, his horse, a member of the Senate. And when you are as outlandish and as terrible as this, it is no surprise that he is stabbed by the imperial bodyguards while watching a gladiator show just 4 years into his reign. Nero, who comes in shortly after, has little interest in governing. He prefers to write poetry and act in theater. He burns down part of the city of Rome so he can expand his palace. He kills thousands of people by burning down part of the city just so he can expand his palace. He's going to persecute Christians. He's going to murder his own mother. And when the Senate deposes him and removes him from power, he ends up committing suicide. And there's Commodus, who we've talked about in previous lessons. He is the son of Marcus Aurelius. He seizes power when his father passes away. He's not particularly bright. He doesn't really want to lead the government. It's very hands-off. He's not a skilled military tactician like the previous emperors, and he's very vain, has a huge ego, thinks of himself as part god, Hercules. He does fight in the Colosseum. He tries to rename Rome for a short period of time and ends up being assassinated. And while they poison him, that doesn't necessarily do the work. So while he is recovering from being poisoned, they go and they strangle him. Commodus is featured in the Hollywood blockbuster film Gladiator, starring Russell Crowe, and while there are some historical accuracies, such as him taking over after his father Marcus Aurelius, his ego and him being vain, the fact he fought in the Colosseum, those are all historical accuracies. However, it's very much exaggerated for the film, specifically the scene where he dies. As we previously mentioned, he is strangled to death in his own private quarters. He is not murdered on the arena floor by a former general. And our last bad example of an emperor was Elagabalus. Now, he wanted to push the sun god Elagabal as the main deity of Rome. He tried to build a new temple. This, of course, appalled the Romans that were there, and he will be murdered by the royal guard in 222 AD after only reigning for 4 years. You know, there's a common theme with all of those emperors. They're either murdered by the guards or the guards weren't there when they were murdered. Really makes you wonder about that, huh? Now, social issues. People are losing the confidence in the empire, especially as you're farther and farther away from Rome. There's a huge wealth gap between the rich and the poor, and people are just not caring about the public affairs of the emperor and the empire like they were previously. With money being tight, there's less money for soldiers, and so the Roman government starts outsourcing their defense. They're hiring mercenaries, foreign soldiers who will take less money, but they are less disciplined than the Roman legionnaire, and they are way less loyal because their attention and loyalty goes to the highest bidder. And so one emperor steps up onto the scene to try and control and reform Rome, and that is Diocletian. Becoming emperor in 284, he rules with an iron fist and does not really care about your personal freedoms. He doubles the size of the military. He's trying to control inflation by controlling how much money is in circulation. And in order to try and salvage the economies, he's going to split Rome up into the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. The East speaking Greek and the West speaking Latin. So you can see here the split as Diocletian will take the Eastern Roman Empire and Maximilian will take the Western Roman Empire, the West being Latin and very spread out, the East being more consolidated and speaking Greek. Now, when Diocletian dies, we get Emperor Constantine. Now, Constantine is going to lead the Eastern Roman Empire in a conflict against the West because there's a dispute about who is the true and sole ruler of the Roman Empire, despite the fact that it's split in two. And he has this vision at the Battle of Milvian that God is going to grace him and support him, and he wins this battle. He thanks God. He converts to Christianity. He becomes the first Christian emperor. He is the sole ruler of Rome, despite the fact that the Roman Empire is split into the Eastern and the Western Empire. I know it's kind of confusing. He's going to pass the Edict of Milan, which will allow Christians to worship freely. He's going to move the capital from Rome to Byzantium, later renamed Constantinople after himself, and then later renamed to Istanbul after the Ottomans conquered it. And the eastern side of the empire is flourishing due to the wealth and the trade. The Western Roman Empire is starting to decay and crumble because it is now much farther away from the capital, Constantinople, and the internal problems are getting worse and worse for the West, and there's not enough money, and because life is so much rougher on the west side of Europe, this is where all of the barbarians and the invaders start pillaging. The Western Roman Empire is continuously invaded by the Angles and the Saxons and the Franks and the Goths and the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths and the Goths that listened to metal music and the Huns and the Vandals, and only one of those was a joke. The Eastern Roman Empire is much more secure, much more stable. They don't have as many invasions, and the Mongols, the Huns, and all those that invade the West, the Germanic people, are going to be pushed further and further into the Roman lands. Rome is going to fall apart and crumble, and the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, is ousted in 476 AD. And so the Jenga tower has collapsed. The Roman Empire as we know it is over. Now, the Western Roman Empire has collapsed. The Vandals, the Ostrogoths, and all of those that have invaded have destroyed Western Europe. The Eastern Roman Empire is still going well. Now, there is a point to note that in this era and time, they did not refer to themselves as the Byzantine. They referred to themselves as Romans. They considered themselves Roman, despite the fact that they spoke Greek, and culturally, most of their customs were Greek. It wasn't until the 1500s when historians start referring to the western side as the Roman Empire and the eastern side as the Byzantine. So take a few moments, answer our essential question: what political, economic, military, and social problems led to the fall of the Roman Empire? If you want to check out our other lessons on how Rome becomes an empire, that is on our channel as well. Or we have a whole lesson on Byzantium and a new Rome, as it's called. And that wraps up our lesson. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you found this helpful, check us out on Teachers Pay Teachers, YouTube, Rumble, and the Kloeker Education Foundation website. We have a ton of resources there and a ton of free videos. Or if you're over the whole Roman thing, you can check out our next unit, Ancient Asia. We'll be talking about India. We'll be talking about the Persians. We'll be talking about the Chinese empires that are starting to develop out in the East, where power, innovation, and tradition all happen. All that and more is just a click away. I'll see you there.